His tribe farewelled him at 18, young, inexperienced, lost. When he returned 20 years later, filled with ancient wisdom, covered in mysterious scars, carrying incredible stories, what had he experienced on Walkabout? Northern Territory, Australia, 1878. The rugged, untamed wilderness of Arnhem Land, one of the world's most ancient landscapes. In these lands, the Yolngu people had lived for thousands of years, preserving the stories of Dreamtime, maintaining a deep spiritual connection with the land. Kalani was an 18-year-old young Yolngu man, tall and lean, his physique not yet fully developed, his eyes carrying the uncertainty of youth. Traditionally, young Yolngu men went on Walkabout, a spiritual journey, a rite of passage from boyhood to manhood. Walkabout typically lasted a few weeks, maybe a few months. The young man would go into the bush alone, testing survival skills, seeking spiritual enlightenment, deepening connection with ancestral lands. When he returned, transformed, matured, ready to assume an adult role in the tribe. When Kalani's Walkabout day arrived, the tribal elders performed ceremonial preparation, face painting with traditional patterns, blessing songs in ancient language, sacred artifacts given to the young traveler. Elder Widiana, the tribe's most respected leader, gave Kalani his final words. "You go to find yourself. Listen to the land, listen to the ancestors, listen to your spirit. When ready, you return. We wait for you." Kalani's family, Mother Marawu, Father Jalu, younger sister Yolata, made emotional farewells. Marawu held her son tightly. "Come back to us. Come back safe. I will, Mother." A few weeks, maybe 2 months. Then I return, a man. But Kalani didn't return. Weeks became months. Months became a year became years. Search parties were sent. Experienced trackers followed Kalani's initial trail, north toward the coast, then inland toward rocky escarpments. But the trail went cold. It disappeared completely, as if the earth had swallowed him. After 2 years, the tribal council reluctantly declared Kalani was probably dead. The bush had claimed his life. Dangerous animals, harsh conditions, accidents, many possible fates. Marawu never fully accepted it. A mother's heart refused to believe. Every stranger approaching camp, every distant figure in the bush, her heart would leap. Is it him? Is it Kalani? But it never was. 20 years passed. Marawu aged, her hair graying. Jalu became an elder himself. Yolata married and had children. Life continued. Kalani became a memory, a story told to children. Your uncle, who went on Walkabout and never returned. Then, one morning in 1898, everything changed. Dawn was breaking over Arnhem Land, painting the sky orange and pink. The camp was slowly waking, fires being rekindled, children stirring, adults beginning daily routines. Young boy Barani, Yolata's son, was playing near the camp edge. He suddenly shouted, "Someone's coming!" Strange man. The entire camp was immediately alert. Strangers could be dangerous, hostile tribes, white settlers, criminals. Men grabbed spears, women gathered children. From the bush emerged a figure. A man, approximately 40 years old, tall, powerfully built, his body covered in scars, some traditional ritual scars, others mysterious and unusual. His face was weathered by decades of sun, his eyes deep and intense, carrying knowledge that seemed ancient. He wore minimal traditional clothing, carried a weathered didgeridoo and sacred message stick. He walked with confidence, showing no aggression. He stopped at a respectful distance from camp. He raised his hand in traditional Yolngu greeting. "I am Kalani, son of Marawu and Jalu, brother of Yolata. I have returned from Walkabout." Stunned silence, then murmurs, disbelief, confusion. Kalani died 20 years ago. This must be a trick, an impostor. No one returns from Walkabout after 20 years. Widiana, now very old, stepped forward cautiously. He studied the stranger's face. Something was familiar in the features, but decades had changed everything. "You claim to be Kalani. Prove it." The man smiled, a sad, understanding smile. "When I was 7, I fell from a tree near the sacred billabong. I broke my arm. You said it, told me the story of the rainbow serpent to calm my tears. The scar here," he showed his arm, "is still visible." Widiana's eyes widened. It was a true story, but many could know it. "Tell me something only Kalani would know, something private." Kalani looked toward the crowd and found an elderly woman, Marawu, now gray-haired, frail, leaning on a walking stick. Their eyes met. "Mother," Kalani's voice broke slightly, "before I left, you gave me a secret name. A name you never told anyone else. You said, 'This name is between us, will always connect us.' That name was Jangawul, the name of your own father." Marawu gasped. She collapsed to her knees. "Kalani, my son, my Kalani." She rushed forward and embraced him. 20 years melted away. A mother's love recognized what time had changed. Jalu followed, then Yalata. A tearful reunion. The tribe watched, amazed, emotional. "But how?" Yalata asked. 20 years. What happened? Where were you?" "It's a long story," Kalani replied. "A very long story." That evening, the entire tribe gathered around the ceremonial fire. Elders, families, children, everyone wanted to hear. Kalani sat in the center, firelight dancing across his scarred face. "My walkabout began normally," he started. "I walked north, following ancestral paths. I hunted, gathered, meditated, connected with the land. For the first 2 weeks, everything was as expected. Then, I reached a place I'd never been, a remote escarpment, far north. There, I heard singing. Beautiful, ancient singing. I followed the sound and found a hidden valley. And in that valley," he paused dramatically. The audience leaned forward. "I found another tribe. People I'd never seen, who spoke a dialect I barely understood. They called themselves Merngen, an isolated people, living exactly as ancestors lived thousands of years ago. No contact with the outside world, no white settlers, no other tribes. Hidden murmurs of disbelief. Impossible! No tribe is completely isolated anymore. I thought the same," Kalani continued, "but they were real. And when they found me, their reaction was unexpected. They didn't attack, didn't send me away. Instead, their elder, a very old woman named Lalara, looked at me and said, 'We've been waiting for you.'" "Waiting? How could they know?" Lalara explained. "The Dreamtime spirits had sent them a vision. A young Yolngu man would come, would bring them a message from the outside world, would also learn their ancient ways. I was that man. So I stayed. Not by choice initially. The valley was very hard to leave, surrounded by treacherous cliffs. But eventually, I stayed by choice. Because the Merngen people possessed knowledge, ancient knowledge, that was being lost everywhere else." "What kind of knowledge?" asked Widiana. "Everything. Traditional healing practices forgotten by most tribes, ancient navigation techniques, sacred ceremonies not performed in generations, storytelling methods maintaining oral history perfectly. They were a living library of our people's oldest wisdom." Kalani stood and showed the scars on his chest. "These marks, each represents a ceremony, learning, initiation. Over 20 years, I became a student of their ways. I learned things my own people had forgotten." He showed his didgeridoo. "This instrument, made by a Merngen master, listen," he played. The sound was unlike anything the tribe had heard, deep, resonant, complex rhythms that seemed to echo Dreamtime itself. Birds quieted. Even the fire seemed to burn steadier. He stopped. That song, a calling song, used by ancestors to communicate across vast distances, a lost art. The Merngen preserved it. He showed the message stick, intricately carved. "This stick tells the story of our people, from creation to present. Every carving has meaning. Can you read it?" The elders examined it. They recognized some symbols, but many were unfamiliar. "Exactly," said Kalani. "We've lost much. I learned to read these fully. I can teach." Excitement grew. If Kalani had truly learned ancient knowledge— "But why 20 years?" asked Jalu. "Why not return sooner?" Kalani's expression darkened. "Because the Merngen had a prophecy. Lalara told me, the outside world is changing rapidly. White settlers are spreading. Traditional ways are disappearing. Soon, isolated tribes like the Merngen would be found, destroyed, assimilated. The prophecy said, when the right time came, I must return to my people, teach the ancient ways before they're completely lost. But the timing was critical. Return too early, knowledge incomplete. Return too late, my own tribe might be gone. So I stayed, learned everything possible. I became a master of the old ways. Then, last month, Lalara died. Her last words, "The time is now, go, teach, preserve," silence around the fire, the profound weight of the mission. A young warrior spoke up skeptically. "This sounds like fantasy." "How do we know you're not making this up? Maybe you just got lost, survived alone, and now you're telling an elaborate story to explain your absence." "A fair question." Kalani nodded. "Reasonable doubt, so I brought proof." He reached into his pack and pulled out items. First, stone tools made with techniques no longer practiced, perfectly crafted, ancient style. "I made these, the Merngan way. Sharper, more durable than modern methods. Then, medicinal plants, dried and preserved. These herbs, healing combinations forgotten, I know their uses. Then, small carved stones. These are teaching stones. Each contains a story encoded in carvings. They can be read by those who know." Finally, most impressive, he pulled out a rolled bark painting. He unrolled it carefully, gasps around the fire. The painting was extraordinary, intricate, detailed, showing Dreamtime stories in a style that was simultaneously ancient and unfamiliar. It depicted the creation of land, arrival of ancestors, the entire cosmology. "Lalara painted this," Kalani said quietly. "Her final gift. It shows knowledge passed down 50,000 years, maybe more. This is our heritage." Witiana approached, trembling. He touched the painting reverently. Tears were in the old man's eyes. "This is real. This is sacred." He turned to Kalani. "If what you say is true, if you truly learned the old ways, you are a gift to our people. The knowledge you bring could save our culture." "That is my purpose," Kalani replied. "I sacrificed 20 years of my life, 20 years with my family, to preserve our heritage. Now I must teach before time runs out." In the following weeks, Kalani began teaching. He started with the elders, showing them forgotten ceremonies. Then he moved to the hunters, demonstrating ancient tracking techniques. Then the healers, sharing medicinal knowledge. Resistance existed. Some questioned his authority. Who was he to claim superior knowledge? He'd abandoned the tribe for 20 years. But the results spoke for themselves. Healing techniques worked remarkably well. Navigation methods proved accurate. The stories he told matched fragmentary memories the elders had from their own grandparents. Slowly, acceptance grew. Kalani wasn't a charlatan. He was a genuine keeper of ancient wisdom. Marau spent every possible moment with her son, 20 years apart, trying to compress into days. "I missed you every day," she said one evening, "but I understand now. Your sacrifice was for a greater purpose. I missed you too, Mother." There were nights I almost left, almost abandoned the mission to come home. But Lalara would remind me, temporary pain prevents permanent loss. If I left early, the knowledge would die with her. "Do you regret it?" Kalani thought carefully. "Regret the lost time?" "Yes." "Regret the choice?" "Number. We cannot let our culture disappear. If my absence preserved it, then it was necessary." One day, white government officials visited. They wanted to document Aboriginal culture, a thinly veiled effort to control and assimilate. When they heard about Kalani's ancient knowledge, they wanted to take him to Sydney, display him like a curiosity. "Come to the city. Show your primitive skills. We'll pay well." Kalani refused firmly. "Knowledge is not a performance, not a commodity to sell. It is sacred, belongs to my people." The officials became aggressive. "We can force you. The law gives us authority over Aboriginal affairs." The tribal council stood with Kalani. "He stays. The knowledge stays. You leave." The standoff was tense, but Kalani demonstrated one ability, the calling song on the didgeridoo. The sound was so powerful, so otherworldly, that the officials were actually frightened. They left quickly and didn't return. "That," Kalani smiled, "is the power of the old ways. Not violence, not submission, just pure spiritual force." Months passed. Kalani's teachings spread. Neighboring tribes heard and sent representatives to learn. An ancient knowledge network began forming, different communities sharing forgotten wisdom. One evening, Yolata approached her brother. "Kalani, I need to ask. The Merngan people, where exactly are they? Should we contact them?" Sadness crossed Kalani's face. "You can't." When I left, Lalara said, The valley will close. The Dreamtime spirits will protect them from the outside world, but also seal them away. They wanted me to preserve the knowledge, but they themselves will remain hidden, perhaps forever. So we can never verify your story? No, you must take it on faith. But the evidence is in the knowledge itself. These techniques, these songs, these stories, they work. That is the verification. Years later, as Kalani aged, he trained selected students, knowledge keepers who would continue teaching after he was gone. Walkabout taught me, he told them, that sometimes the greatest journey is one that takes us away from everything familiar. 20 years seemed impossibly long, but measured against 50,000 years of culture, it was a moment, a brief sacrifice to preserve eternal heritage. One student asked, "Do you think you were really meant to find the Mernjan, or did you just get lost and make the best of the situation?" Kalani smiled enigmatically. "Does it matter? Whether Dreamtime spirits guided me or pure chance brought me there, the result is the same. Knowledge was dying, now it lives. That is what matters." On his deathbed, many years later, surrounded by children and grandchildren who'd learned the ancient ways, Kalani's final words were, "Tell my story. Not for glory, but for the lesson. Sometimes we must lose ourselves to find our people. Sometimes we must sacrifice personal happiness for cultural survival. And sometimes what seems like abandonment is actually the deepest form of love." His legacy lived on. The ancient knowledge he brought back from his 20-year walkabout became the foundation for a cultural renaissance. The Yolngu people and many other tribes who learned from them maintained traditions that otherwise would have vanished. And sometimes on quiet nights elders would gather and tell the story of the young man who went on walkabout and disappeared, only to return transformed, carrying the precious gift of forgotten wisdom. Some said the Merngan tribe was real, the hidden valley truly existed. Others said Kalani had simply spent 20 years alone, learning from the land itself and the spirits directly. The debate continued. But all agreed on one truth. Whether his story was literally true or spiritually true, Kalani's sacrifice had saved something irreplaceable, ancient knowledge that the modern world desperately needed. And perhaps that was the real magic of Walkabout, not the journey into the bush, but the journey into self, not the physical distance traveled, but the spiritual growth achieved. Kalani had left as an uncertain boy, seeking manhood. He returned as a keeper of cultural treasures, a bearer of ancient wisdom, a bridge between past and present. That, truly, was the transformation Walkabout promised. Not always in the expected way, not always in the expected time, but always profound, always sacred. And in the end, wasn't that what mattered most? Not how long the journey took, but what the traveler brought home.